Antonio, I'm the voice of your male and female followers, and I'm not a sexist. Talk about Frida Kahlo already. Hi, I'm Antonio García Villarán, and finally, I'm going to talk to you about Frida Kahlo and her work. And it seems like you're saying you don't like Frida Kahlo, which I'm not saying I don't like her, huh? We'll see about that throughout the video. And now, well, you're attacking Mexico that you don't like South America or whatever, nonsense like that. I mean, is Mexico really just Frida Kahlo? In my opinion, if Yoko Ono was the queen of hand part, Frida Kahlo is the queen, but of merchandising. And people here are crazy. They don't even know who Frida Kahlo was. But the other day I ran into a friend wearing a Frida Kahlo t-shirt and I said, but let's see, do you know who Frida Kahlo is? And she tells me, man, I'm a huge fan. I say, a fan of what? Of course I'm a fan. I have all her albums. And Frida Kahlo is the perfect product. First, because she has a perfectly recognizable aesthetic. And of course, people dress up as Frida Kahlo for Halloween. Go figure. They make outfits. Even kids dress up as Frida Kahlo. Second, because since the 80s, she became a symbol of feminism. And I say, feminism for what? If Frida Kahlo is the complete opposite of a feminist, from my point of view, of course, I'll expand on this idea later. Third, because she has very few works. And that's great. Don't you see that the fewer works she has, the more expensive they can be sold?
To New York, where a painting by Frida Kahlo was auctioned for more than $8 million. This is a new record for the Mexican artist.
I think she had about 200 or so, or 200 or fewer than 200 works she had painted in her whole life. Fourth, because she also paints typical national topics of Mexico, of course. And for both the authorities and for Mexicans themselves, well, this is good because they can reclaim their country through her. That's another thing I don't quite understand either. 5, because we know a lot about Frida Kahlo's life. Movies have been made. By the way, this Salma Hayek movie, where she appears as Frida Kahlo, to fly and let yourself fall. I think because she produced it too. In Your Sister's Arms, would Salma Hayek want to become a Mexican national symbol by stepping into Frida Kahlo's shoes? You bitch. I'll leave it at that. Cry? Yes, you damn witch. And besides, her life is very interesting because it's full of tragic things, right? We're all interested in things happening to someone. I mean, her life seems like a soap opera, but one of the bad ones. And 6, and most importantly, that Frida Kahlo is a martyr. And martyrs work very well in art history, in history in general. Being a martyr is very cool. Being a martyr puts you at the top, above everything else. You just have to look at religion, and there you'll have it. All saints are martyrs. Therefore, Frida Kahlo is a saint. I think that many people see her that way, huh? But there's something that bothers me deeply, and I know Frida Kahlo didn't do this. Her followers did, the people who put her on a pedestal. And it's that Frida Kahlo casts such a long shadow. She occupies everything, absolutely everything. And what happens? Well, she covers up the work of artists that I find very interesting. For example, like Maria Izquierdo, or like Remedios Varo, or Leonora Carrington, to name a few. However, the exact opposite has happened, that now artists, for example, like Beyonce, Katy Perry, Madonna, and so many others, well, they dress up as Frida Kahlo. Because if they don't dress up as Frida Kahlo, it's like they haven't done anything in life. They haven't been trendy, they haven't become the symbol par excellence. I remember when I was a student that Frida Kahlo's famous diary came out. And of course, at that time, I couldn't afford to buy it. Recently, I got a hold of it, it arrived, and I received it with great excitement. I've read the whole thing. And what happened? Well, a huge disappointment. I thought that Frida Kahlo was an intellectual. I was gonna find quotes for the history books there, and no, I haven't found any of that. And even her drawings have disappointed me because many of them are little doodles. It's exactly everything that I say in my classes that should be avoided. There are little faces she knows how to do with the eyes all the same, without any kind of depth. But anyway, what surprised me most about the diary is that I think, without knowing me, Frida Kahlo has made a portrait of me, right? Does it look like me or not? But anyway, what surprised me about Frida Kahlo's diary is that it's a symbol of anti-feminism because, of course, she was a submissive person. She was so in love with Diego that, well, we all know it, right? Diego also cheated on her all the time, even with her sister. And what does she do? Well, she loves him a lot. Inexplicably, she submits to a man, and then they say, no, but she did what she wanted. She went out with women, she smoked, and so on. And well, is that being a feminist? Don't you think that maybe she did those things out of spite? Because as I say, the passion, the love she has for Diego, attention, I love you with all the loves. I will give you the forest with a little house inside. No one will ever know how I love Diego. Why do I call him my Diego? He never was nor will be mine. He belongs to himself. Diego, I am alone. Well, the whole diary is like that. She's a bit tiresome. And in the diary, we already see how she's almost a naive painter. Because, of course, now any style is named, and then it's a wonderful thing. You can't say that she just doesn't draw well. No, it's naive. And come on, up it goes. But also, I'm gonna tell you one thing, huh? That Frida Kahlo is the queen of the selfie when the selfie didn't exist. Because what is a selfie? Taking a photo of yourself, right? And what did she do? Self-portraits. But not just self-portraits, she posed wonderfully. And the thing is, there are photos on the Frida Kahlo Museum website that, I mean, if she'd had a cell phone handy, she would have made her own book of selfies long before the Kardashians, of course. Her, because Frida Kahlo, right? She's Miaism personified. In her works, she only talks about herself. Look, I don't think that's a bad thing. Me. Because I've always said the best way to be universal is to talk about yourself. So that, for me, is okay. You also find information out there, the kind I like so much, because it mythologizes the character, the artist, and says that from the 1970s on, she became well-known, famous. But that wasn't the case, you know? I mean, in her lifetime, Frida Kahlo was already known, and not just because of Diego Rivera. She got commissions, she exhibited in galleries, she even exhibited at the MoMA. And I wonder what would have become of Frida Kahlo if she hadn't died at 47 years old. Well, she'd probably be appearing on magazine covers, on TV shows, and of course she'd be a YouTuber. I mean, I'm absolutely sure of that. But for example, let's look at some of her work. In this one, Diego and I, from 1949. Yes, it's very symbolic, very pretty, very like that. Painterly wise, well, it leaves a bit to be desired. And what I like least about this work is what it says, the message. She's in the foreground crying, and on her forehead, she has Diego. I mean, Diego, the one who abused her psychologically, the one who played with her, and she portrays him like a god. She gives him a third eye. What is Frida Kahlo telling us? That we should accept the pain? That we should accept being hurt? Is this the symbol of feminism? Please. But I mean, she doesn't just do it once, you know? In this other work, Diego on My Mind, from 1943, she again puts Diego on her forehead and also around her head, her face. There's a kind of spider web. Now, I like all these symbolic things a lot, but you also have to think about what you're telling me with the work. Do you like what Frida Kahlo says in her works? Do you agree with what Frida Kahlo says in her works? But if there's something I don't like at all about Frida Kahlo's work, is that she presents works like this one, like The Bus, which for my taste doesn't even reach the level of naive art. Because for real naive art, right? Lola Flores or La Choda, those were truly naive painters. Why, when painting those pictures? And well, the master Rousseau, well, Rousseau does have works that are quite interesting. Why? Because naive painting is based on the simplicity of form, on the supposed rejection of academicism. In other words, just plain bad painting or painting without knowledge. And indeed, yes, this work, for example, among many others, Frida Kahlo paints them without any knowledge at all, although you can see she wants to have it because in later works she doesn't do all these things. However, Frida Kahlo also had good works. For example, this self-portrait with thorn necklace from 1940 seems very successful to me because it has a very deep gaze, it has a central composition, but she's managed with those two elements, the cat and the monkey, to make it more interesting. And well, the thorn necklace, symbolically, that whole universe that Frida Kahlo creates, the dead hummingbird right on her chest. Anyway, yeah, there are works by Frida Kahlo that are real, I think they're good, they're high quality. That's not the case with most of her works. That's why I don't understand how millions and millions of dollars are paid for works that are just, well, ham parte.
This auction actually took place at the world-famous Christie's auction house.
But almost.
Christie's.
Or, well, yeah, maybe they are hampered.
Christie's.
Frida Kahlo also has works that, from my point of view, are very silly, very simplistic. For example, this one from 1944, The Broken Column. Well, look, since her spine is broken, I mean, it was broken in 3 places, she paints herself with an ionic column? Well, broken. Of course. Look at that. Association of ideas. Simplistic association of ideas. Yeah, it's like my heart is in pieces and she makes a heart broken into little pieces, into bits. Another work that I do a lot, I find it very symbolist and at the same time a bit Rousseau-esque, huh? This one, The Wounded Deer. Also, it cracks me up because it's a deer with arrows stuck in it with Frida's face, but the face has no expression. I mean, they can do whatever to her and she has the same face as in all her self-portraits. Like that? Serious. It's not quite like Botero's little faces yet, but hey, you're getting dangerously close. But what happens is that when people talk about Frida's work, well, try asking someone, name 4 or 5 works by Frida Kahlo. I bet they'll go blanked. They won't be able to tell you, like, even 2. Now, merchandising, there's plenty. And one of her best-known works, which I also consider to be a good piece, is this one from 1947, The Two Fridas. And the same thing happens even though it has drawing errors. We see those 2 hands holding each other with fingers that are a bit long. However, the other 2 are correct. But that whole symbolic universe, I think it's very well represented. Now, I still don't like the message though. Because it has one of the hearts is once again connected to Diego. It's clear she works with few concepts, 4 or 5, and that, well, she spends her whole life painting the same thing. And just as this composition is a classic one, already well established, widely used in the Baroque, for example, in this other painting, she uses the Baroque technique, but making it her own. And it's that idea of crossing the boundaries of the painting, putting a hand in front so that, well, it looks like it's in front. I mean, a trompe-l'oeil. This was well known by, for example, Murillo or Pere Borel. But ultimately, what I believe is the cornerstone of her work are the ex-votos. The thing is, Diego and she collected ex-votos, Mexican ex-votos. But what is an ex-voto? Look, well, an ex-voto is an object offered to a divinity. When someone makes a promise to a saint, well, they commission that ex-voto and they place it there for the saint. And what's the goal here? Well, to get a benefit that can't be obtained naturally. In other words, an ex-voto is a little painting, an image you use to ask a saint for a favor. I mean, it's something surreal from my point of view, but that's how it is. And if we analyze ex-votos closely, we'll see they look a lot like Frida Kahlo's paintings. She was very much inspired by ex-votos. And in the end, what happened? What happened? Magically, through the mediation of faith, Frida Kahlo has become a saint, and her paintings, well, they're practically ex-votos. Ex-votos that are repeated on keychains, on lighters, and on mugs, on all sorts of things. Saint Frida Kahlo. Honestly, I don't think Frida Kahlo was a top-tier artist. She had works that weren't bad and even some good ones. And I also think her public image should be reevaluated, especially her feminist image. But most importantly, what do you think of Frida Kahlo? Because you've been asking for the video, like nonstop. I hope you like this video, really. Share it so we can talk more about art. Don't forget to hit the bell, give it a like, and I'll see you very soon. There, that's it. I finally made the Frida Kahlo video, huh? Now what? Is something gonna rain down on me? Are, I don't know, flowers gonna rain on my head? Well, the channel can be closed now that everything's been said, and well, goodbye forever. Bye-bye.